this was a demolition in the end.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, Leicester made it awkward in the first half. They fought 7 points in it at half-time, but the third quarter, Leinster just showed their class. Ironically, when they were down to 14 men, they just were unbelievable. I mean, you look at it now, Hugh, they've scored 269 points in 6 games in Europe this year. I mean, it's incredible. You just hope, you know, have they been tested? Of course they've been tested, but they'll certainly be tested in the semi-final and final stage, but they've been outstanding, deserve to be where they are.
No question about that. Full-time score at the Aviva in his Heineken Cup quarter-final. Leinster 55, Leicester Tigers 24.
Hugh, Donald, thank you. All too easy for Leinster, Jamie. I mean, we talked about this earlier. Could they blow them away in the second half? And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah, I don't think they've been tested, if I'm honest. Maybe in patches in games. And look, Leinster would be kind of sick of hearing that kind of narrative that will play out, particularly depending on what could be Toulouse that they're facing in the semi. But look, they turned up when it mattered. They delivered when it mattered. They got to rotate some players in. Hopefully the injuries aren't so bad. Great players like Garry Ringrose come back, have massive impact on the game, show his class. But they'll be delighted. I mean, they scored 7 tries in a quarter-final in Europe at home. How bad?
7 tries, Fiona. It is some going, to be fair.
Yeah, and look, the variety of tries as well. You know, they had a straight-off set piece, they had a multi-phase, they had a mauls, they had every which way they wanted. But I think it was the change from after half-time. Like, they sorted out the problems they had. It was a loose game. They were sloppy. They cleaned that up in the second half, and they didn't let Leicester kind of impose their game on them. They took full control in the second half.
I guess that's the thing, Eddie. You know, the questions that you posed at half-time, did they answer all of those for you in that second half?
Oh, yeah. No question about it. I mean, they put a lot more structure in their game, and that showed when they picked Leicester apart. The Leicester defence was ripe for picking, and we saw that in the first half, but Leinster got sloppy at the back end of the first half, and they made mistakes. They steadied the ship at half-time and said, just keep picking these guys apart. The giveaway was, though, that Leicester had nothing they really had nothing to bring to the party. They got a couple of tries. The last one was a breakout try, but the key was, it was a one-score game. Doris within the bin. You're thinking, no, if Leicester have anything to show here, they're going to put some pressure on Leinster. They lost the yellow card 10-0. The game was over when Leinster got back to 15, and then Leinster just kicked on from there and tore them apart.
Yeah, they certainly did. Let's hear from the player of the match then. Garry Ringrose is with Clare.
Congratulations, Garry. You are the Heineken star of the match. Jerry Miramurku is going to make the presentation. Garry, you certainly shook off that injury we saw in the Six Nations, and 2 tries as well on your performance tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it was we were under pressure to get a good start against Leicester because they're such a good side, and thankfully we managed to get our noses out in front early, which helped us. But it was, I mean, that scoreline doesn't reflect how tough a game that was, especially for the boys backing up an unbelievably physical test last week. So yeah, I mean, listen, we're delighted to get a win here at home in front of the 27,000 people that turned out, so really happy.
Yeah, scoreline comfortable in the end. You really stepped it up in that third quarter, didn't you, despite being down to 14 for a while?
I mean, yeah, it's kind of, sometimes it takes a little moment like that to galvanise you. It's obviously not ideal and something we want to try and avoid, but it certainly put a pep in us to really step, and we had to work for absolutely everything in that second half, so thankfully we managed to do it.
And the Munster machine, or the Leinster machine, even moves on. You've got Toulouse or Sharks back here again in 3 weeks' time, a semi-final place.
Yeah, I mean, every game seems to get tougher and tougher. As I said, we had unbelievably tough last week, and with a short turnaround we have to back it up again, and yeah, we'll have to get some training in. Some lads will go to South Africa. We have obviously a tough test there in the ORC, but it's all hands on deck for the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Congratulations, Garry.
Thank you.
Well, Garry Ringrose, the Heineken star of the match, and Leinster certainly starring performance tonight. They have won this one 55 points to 24. They've scored 7 tries in the making. We have got plenty of reaction and analysis to come from the Aviva Stadium straight after this break.
James, 55 points on the board against the English champions. You've got to be pleased with that.
Yeah, good win. No, it was a proper game first half, particularly. Do you know what I mean? It was 17-10 at half-time, I think, and we were in a proper game. We're really pleased with the fight we showed in the second half. Look, we said at half-time, you know, we just had to keep pounding the rock, and our scores would come. And thankfully they did in the second half.
Yeah, they did pressure and disrupt you, as you said, in that first half. But I suppose your ruthlessness really kicked in then, didn't it?
Yeah, well, we know, it's European knockout games, so we're expecting to be close games. So it was just what we expected. We knew Leicester would rock up and make it really tough for us, and they played well. They played with good width as well in the first half. It wasn't just a case of them kicking the ball. They saw they tried to score at the edge. So, we were probably a little bit sloppy at times defensively the first half, but I think we fixed that in the second half, and it was enough to get the win.
So you're right on track now. You'll have time, I suppose, to regroup as you really zone in on that silverware.
Yeah, well, it's still a long way from that still. Do you know what I mean? We've 2 obviously important games to forget, and obviously different guys will get a chance now to put their name forward, and then semi-final here in 3 weeks, which is going to be pretty special. So the support's been unbelievable. I think we only had like 5 days to sell tickets this week, and 29,000 here tonight. So it's a big effort, and we're hoping to properly fill it now for the semi-final in a few weeks, because it makes some difference for us.
Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I'm sure if they keep scoring tries like they are, they'll have no bother doing that either.
So, like, from Leicester's point of view, is how do you can't stop them up front. If you try and stop them up front and you overcommit, they're going to cut you to pieces behind the breakdown. So it's almost impossible to defend Leinster, because there's so many ways they can get you once they stay in the right mindset. And we saw that in the second half. And they're going to talk it down now, because like 55 points in a quarter final.
I did find Garry and James's
yeah, it's a tough job, a tough
good.
day at the office, and no one's buying that. So they're hot favourites after this. And I think, to be fair, I think they have to be measured. I thought, we said before the game that Leicester wouldn't bring much to the party, and they did their best, but it was never ever going to be good enough, and you could see the fight went out a bit as well. So like 55 points is a terrible drubbing, and I think it just talks Leinster up more. They'll try and cold water it a bit, but you'd understand it because this Leicester team were probably one of the weaker teams in the quarterfinals. That's the truth of it.
Yeah, well, it looks like it.
And that's why they paid the best, the first seed in the quarterfinal.
Yeah.
This is what happens. There's the gap right there.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be quite interesting. Leicester did expose a few things in the Leinster defence, particularly. I think James Ryan mentioned it when he was getting interviewed, in terms of they kind of exposed them on the edge a little bit, but they just kind of ran across the field as opposed to straightening up. Someone like a Toulouse, if they get past tomorrow, will take a bit of a reading from that. They'll see what happens as well. Plus, if you put defensive pressure on Leinster, what potentially can happen.
Plus, I can't imagine Toulouse giving up those type of tries.
No, yeah, 100%.
They were train and run tries. They just tore Leicester midfield to pieces there. Now, I can't imagine Toulouse letting that happen if they're the opposition, or any opposition really. Some of those tries were like schoolboy errors. You can't blame Leinster for that. They did what they had to do, but they're going to be defended a lot better, and they're going to find it hard at times. In the first half, they lost a lot of collisions. That they slipped half tackles. It didn't matter at the end of the day. But in a tight game, teams will go after them physically and see if they're up for it. No, they can do it, but I thought that was a little weakness today, that like Leicester didn't have to do much a few times to get into the kill zone by just being very aggressive, hanging on to the ball, putting pressure on Leinster, and they did have that access. I think, to be fair, Leinster recognised that they're going to have to defend better than they did as well.
Yeah.